Let's take a look at a new quizzes set, something called account classification. And so there's some terms that we need to learn in order to be able to do business, any type of business, whether it's ag business or industrial business or banking, whatever it happens to be. So what we're going to do here is learn some new words such as asset, liability, equity, owner's equity, capital, expenses, so on and so forth. And so I'll go through these, and then once we finish this video, you can go ahead and work this quizzes on your own. So a farm savings account. So this would be like if you have a bank account with money in it, cash. Anytime you have something that involves cash, that's going to be something called an asset. An asset is something that you own and that you control. Inventory. If you think of Ross Market, all the stuff that's on the shelf down there, all the Cheetos, soda pop, that's called inventory. It's an asset. Other types of inventory would be hay in your barn on the farm. That is an asset. A capital account is an account that refers to tools, cash, anything that's needed in order to produce some type of income or revenue. So on a farm, capital equipment would be like a tractor or a barn or a plow. At the Ross Market, the cash register would be an example of capital, and it falls into the classification of owner's equity. Office furniture, an asset. A patent, this would be an invention that you have the rights to control. That's also known as an asset. If you get yourself a loan, short term would refer to a loan for less than 1 year. That's a liability. A liability is when you owe somebody money. Even if you borrow $1 from somebody to buy something out of the snack machine, when you owe somebody something, that is known as a liability. A commission paid occurs around here when we sell animals at the fair. If you have a show lamb or pig and you sell it at the auction, you actually have to pay a commission to the fair for the privilege of selling your animal there at that auction, and that is known as an expense. Anytime you have an investment, such as you're putting money in the bank or you're buying stock, it's another form of, it's not quite cash, but investments in stocks. They're items that could be sold and converted to cash. We call those assets. Plant and machinery, we've talked about that, like the tractor on the farm. All right, so when you sell something, let's say you sell the animal at the fair, the money that you receive is called revenue, and that's generated by the sales of either animals or merchandise down at Ross Market or a grocery store. The sale of the merchandise that comes into the owner of that business is known as revenue. Anytime you have a loan, that's going to be a liability, and in this one, it's neither an expense or an asset. It is, well, for this answer, is none of these because it's a liability. A bank overdraft. So if you try to take money out of the bank and you don't have any money in the bank, for example, like writing a check, then you've got a problem there because now you owe the bank money, and anytime you owe money, we just learned that that is a liability. Bank fees, banks charge you to have a checking account, that's an expense. Okay, so if you have a business and you start pulling the assets out of the business, that's known as a withdrawal, and it's part of owner's equity. And that's about all we're going to cover on that one right now. You just need to know that anytime you take anything out of the business, which could be cash or some other assets, and convert it to personal use, that's going to be a withdrawal, and that comes out of owner's equity. Accounts receivable is real important. Accounts receivable is anytime somebody owes you money. And if somebody owes you money, that is classified as an asset. Within the AET, the two reports that are very important are something called the balance sheet and the profit and loss report. Balance sheet, two essential reports. Farm vehicles, assets. A building, a structure, that's an asset. Okay, perennial crops. These are crops that last for more than 1 year. Here in Tule Lake, most of our crops are what we call annual crops. You plant potatoes, they have a life cycle of, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. And so that's different than perennials. Perennials is more like an orchard where you have trees that might have a productive life of 20 years. And those trees are assets. Farming supplies, anything that you have available to help run the farm is going to be an asset. Okay, some of you got logos and labels on your clothing, and the companies that own those, they're known as intangibles because you can't touch them. It's just the rights to be able to sell that stuff, and those legal rights are classified as assets because you have the right to sell it in order to make money. That's a repeat. We won't spend too much time on this, but accumulated depreciation. On this one, as you can see, I just tell you right here, click asset below. We won't worry about that one for this class. Accounts payable, we will worry about this anytime that you owe money to somebody. Like if you buy something and don't pay for it right away, then that is known as a payable, accounts payable, and that is a liability. We won't worry too much about this one for this class, but balance of net income at the end of the year as a business makes money and it gets transferred into an account called retained earnings, and it becomes kind of a historical record of money that was earned by the business in the form of net income. You get a loan, liability. Retained earnings is classified as owner's equity, retained earnings. Sales gets classified as income or revenue. This is the best answer for this question right here, is income. Sales is going to be a type of income or revenue. Those terms get used interchangeably. Either one refers to money that is created when you sell something, revenue or income. Subscriptions for magazines is an expense. Go to a conference and spend money, that's going to be an expense. Insurance, when you have to pay insurance premiums, expense. Taxes are expenses. I think we're down to the end here. And the last one, payroll. Yes, when you have to pay your workers or people that work in the organization, that gets classified as labor expense. So at the conclusion of this, which we have just reached, you can go ahead and click on the link that has been provided to you and see how you do on this. Your goal, of course, is to get 100%. So good luck with that.